evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Tonight on the program, the general public is next in line to get a COVID-19 shot next month, as President Duterte says he may use police powers to mandate vaccination. The Commission on Elections is giving in to pressure from lawmakers and various groups. It says it will likely extend voter registration by a month. And the world invasion of K-pop continues as BTS is set to return to the concert stage in the United States with a live audience for the first time in more than 2 years. After health workers, the elderly, and those with comorbidities, essential workers, and the indigent community, it is now the turn of minors and the general public to get vaccinated against COVID-19. But is the supply enough to cover this population? Our Trisha Terada reports.
President Duterte has given the green light to vaccinate the general population, including adolescents, in October as supply stabilizes. Details are not yet available, but Malacanang says the A1 to A3 groups will still be prioritized.
Magkakaroon po tayo ng express lane para sa kanila. Pero ang importante lang, dahil nandiyan na po ang supply at ang naging problema naman natin dati ay kakulangan ng supply, ngayon maraming supply, sisimulan na po natin ang bakunahan ng general population.
The government urges parents to start enlisting their children for vaccination. Malacanang says once the master list is available, authorities will announce who will go first. As of September 28, more than 20.5 million people have already been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Metro Manila is close to hitting the 80% population protection target. After NCR, Iloilo ranks second in terms of the number of fully vaccinated individuals. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez hopes to raise full vaccination rate to 50% in key cities, while he expects Metro Manila to achieve population protection by the end of October. Another goal for next month is to increase inoculation with 500,000 to 800,000 doses administered daily.
We will ramp up our deliveries. At least maka-reach po tayo ng 100 million by the end of the month so that we can open up more vaccination. Target na we will administer at least 55 million plus doses.
The president appeals to those refusing vaccinations to change their minds. He says it's important for everyone to get vaccinated to sustain the gains in the fight against COVID-19. If they insist on refusing vaccination, the president says he may have to flex the state's power for public welfare.
Not because we do not believe in your theory or belief or your religion, but because you are a carrier and a danger to society.
Talaga pong merong kapangyarihan ng Estado na gumamit ng police power para itaguyod ang ikabubuti ng karamihan. No? Pero pagdating po dyan sa bakuna, antayin po natin dahil kinakailangan din natin ng pulisiya.
In Davao City, Mayor Sara Duterte ordered the mandatory vaccination of city government workers. Those who refuse without valid medical reason may be suspended or expelled. The president seems to favor the same directive. So does Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, who says 67% of ICU admissions and 84% of those intubated are unvaccinated. Trisha Terada, CNN, Philippines.
Data from the National Task Force shows as of September 28, the country is close to receiving 70 million doses of vaccines. A huge bulk of the delivery is from the Chinese company Sinovac with 39 million doses, followed by U.S. drug maker Pfizer at nearly 11 million and British-Swedish firm AstraZeneca with nearly 9.6 million. The government set to announce before Friday whether it will retain Alert Level 4 in Metro Manila or lower it to allow more businesses to reopen. But hospital groups say it is too early to downgrade in the middle of the slow decline of COVID-19 cases. Our Tristan Odalo filed this report.
Hospitals remain full, hundreds of COVID-19 patients still on the waiting list before being admitted, and lack of manpower. These are some of the indicators why the Philippine College of Physicians and Private Hospitals Association of the Philippines believe that downgrading Metro Manila's alert level is not yet a good idea.
Hindi lang siya puno, no? Overflowing pa ang mga pasyente. Alert level 4, I think, to downgrade it, no, to alert level 3, I think that is too premature, no? Dahil hindi pa to, we need to be a little bit more patient para makita natin.
Right now, hindi pa rin talaga bumababa yung trend, no? ang mga hospitals, especially private hospitals, are still full. Mga doctors, talagang hindi nila sinasuggest na tayo yung mas lumuwag. Ano? Ayaw nga nila bumaba tayo sa level 3.
While both groups acknowledge that there have been several improvements in the hospital situation compared to the start of the surge, like shorter waiting time for admission and more efficient patient management system, these are not enough to say that we can afford to ease restrictions, especially since some health workers have resigned from their post.
And then yung ating mga nurses naman, marami ang nag-resign because they are planning to go abroad.
May mga nag-resign, yung iba naman ay na mga hinar ng DOH, no, ng ating government, hindi naman nag-renew ng kanilang kontrata.
St. Luke's Hospital, on the other hand, says that while they are seeing fewer COVID-19 patients now in their emergency rooms, their ICU facilities remain full. The hospital says situation now remains fluid.
Now, as of this moment, we have already rooms for our general nursing units. Not the ICU. I would like to just inform everyone our ICU beds are still full. However, our moderate to severe patients, we can start admitting already.
The Health Department reports that Metro Manila's healthcare utilization rate remains high. This means that despite lower COVID-19 cases, medical facilities are still full of patients. The Health Department says that they're carefully studying their data before making any recommendations on alert level change. So far, the business sector appeals to the government to downgrade the alert level system to 3 in order to allow more businesses to operate and to help the economy. Tristan Udalo, CNN Philippines.
Fewer COVID-19 cases today because of low laboratory output. The Health Department recorded over 13,846 new cases with nearly 40,000 new survivors and 91 deaths. 7 laboratories failed to submit their data. The DOH also fixing technical problems with its data repository system called COVID Kaya. The agency says the server has reached full capacity. The Information and Communications Department looking into the system. Health officials guarantee this will not affect their assessment of the situation. They say this only affects the number of recoveries and deaths.
Sa alert level system natin, ang metrics na ginamit natin ay yung dami ng kaso, no? That's one. And the second is the healthcare utilization. That's a different information system. When it comes to the case data, hindi siya naapektuhan kasi may access pa rin tayo sa CDRS, which is where we get the number of new cases, no? So nakakapag-compute pa rin tayo, ilan ang bagong kaso ngayon, no? Ano yung 2-week growth rate, ano yung average daily attack rate. So it had no impact in the assessment.
But the University of the Philippines COVID-19 response says the government still needs to polish some data, including contact tracing, hospital utilization, and status of infected medical frontliners. An official of a controversial firm supposedly breaks her silence days after a bombshell revelation at a Senate probe. Members of the media received copies of a statement from Pharmalee's communications arm. The email contained a screenshot showing that the statement was supposedly sent by Crizel Mago this afternoon. CNN Philippines cannot independently verify if the signed statement was made by Mago. Senator Richard Gordon said the Senate did not receive it. In the statement, Mago supposedly apologizes for going off-radar after a testimony that Pharmalee swindled government by tampering with the expiration dates of face shields procured using public funds. The statement said Mago needed some time to think because she felt pressured by the Senate probe. The statement also read that Mago was never threatened by anyone from Pharmalee. It assured that Mago would continue to cooperate in the legislative inquiry. A lawyer of Pharmalee Director Lincoln Ong is crying foul, saying he is unable to contact his client, who is under Senate detention. Ferdinand Topacio says Ong is facing mental torture. Footage released by the Senate today shows Ong taking a morning walk in the Senate premises. Gordon earlier threatened to cite Topacio in contempt after the lawyer said the Blue Ribbon panel is turning into a kangaroo court.
Is it written, unless I woke up in Thailand this morning, that you cannot criticize an institution or a public official? Last time I looked, that right was right there in the Constitution. So this is getting really ridiculous, and that only goes to show that they are a kangaroo court. And I will repeat this again, The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee under the leadership of Senator Richard Gordon is turning into a kangaroo court. It is a kangaroo court. Now, please, Mr. Gordon, if you have legal basis to cite me in contempt, please do so now.
Gordon advises Topacio to instead try to help the Senate not be distracted by sideshows. Coming up on Newsnight, more bodies retrieved following a tragedy at a waterfalls in Cebu, and lawmakers are confident the COMELEC will heed calls to extend the voter registration period. Details next. Stay with us.
Called controversial election and of the country's dramatic return to democracy. More than 30 volunteer encoders left their workstations on that fateful day of February 9th, 1986. They said results were manipulated to favor then President Ferdinand Marcos. A parallel count by poll watchdog NAMFREL showed opposition candidate Cory Aquino in the lead. It was history in the making. Would the sea of change have turned otherwise without the vigilance of citizens groups? In 1983, NAMFREL pioneered citizen-based election monitoring in the world. 3 years later, the group became a key stakeholder in the snap election, enlisting up to 500,000 volunteers. The volunteers were on watch in polling precincts and at the same time conducted a parallel vote count, as Filipinos, wary of alleged massive fraud, closely guarded the ballots.
We would know if the count is believable or has been manipulated. You have to ensure the integrity of the elections, that the elections will reflect the true will of voters.
The COMELEC accredits citizens groups every election to help promote voter interest and assist in poll activities.
Yan ang pinakamahalagang criteria. Non-partisan, walang kinikilingan. And then, titingnan natin kung meron silang kakayanan.
With the advent of automated elections, the citizens' arm remains a key participant in the process, with access to the COMELEC system to conduct an unofficial parallel count. The partial results would then be validated with physical copies of election returns. Besides NAMFREL, the PPCRV has also been accredited to do the quick count. Other poll watchdogs mushroomed through the years, though not necessarily accredited by the COMELEC.
We focus more on fraud as well as the misuse and abuse of government resources vis-a-vis the election.
With the COVID-19 pandemic likely extending to the election period, poll watchdogs say the biggest challenge is getting Filipinos to show up in polling centers to vote. They are calling on the Commission on Elections to make sure voting areas will be safe from the virus and secure from fraud.
Take it easy.
This is easy.
Gal Gadot shows moves worthy of Wonder Woman, taking down Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds in the first clip from Red Notice. The big-budget action flick about an FBI agent, an art thief, and a con artist debuts November 12th on Netflix. The sequel to Aquaman doesn't arrive until December of 2022, but its star is already trying to pique fans' interest. Jason Momoa tells Fandango the underwater action sequences in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom have gone to a whole other level, and that the film has a lot more heart. He also praised the comedy in the script. Quote, "I giggled reading it."
The newest member of my family.
Dave Bautista has a new friend. The actor and animal lover had posted on Instagram trying to track down who abandoned the pit bull puppy, who was found eating garbage with a metal chain embedded in her neck. After several weeks of Humane Society care, the dog has a new home, a new name, Penny Bautista, and a new leash on life. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond headlines. The death toll in a tragic flash flood in a waterfall in Cebu rises to 3. Authorities said they recovered 2 bodies along the river early this morning. They were identified as 32-year-old Giselle Alastra and her 7-year-old daughter. The 2 had been missing since Sunday afternoon. They were among several enjoying a day out at Tinubdan Falls in Catmon town when a flash flood happened. The area was earlier eyed as a tourist destination, pending guidelines for its opening. A probe is underway to find out how people were able to access the falls. Filipinos will likely have more time to register to vote in the May 2022 elections. 2 lawmakers say the Commission on Elections has given assurances that a voter registration deadline will be extended from September 30th to October 31st. Senator Amy Marcos says the poll body's Deputy Executive Director for Operations informed her that the Comelec and Bank will pass a resolution tomorrow extending the registration period. Marcos chairs the Electoral Reforms Committee. Surigao del Norte Representative Francisco Jose Matugas, who sponsors Comelec's budget, also confirming the adjusted deadline during plenary debates on the proposed 2022 National Spending Plan. Comelec spokesman James Jimenez earlier told reporters the poll body will likely grant an extension. It earlier rejected requests from lawmakers and various groups, saying a later deadline would delay preparations for the elections. Comelec plans to limit voters assigned per precinct to observe physical distancing, but first it needs to finalize the total number of voters to determine how many precincts will be needed. Meantime, Filipinos continue to crowd registration sites, still hoping to participate in next year's elections. George Quila shows us the situation at one site in Manila.
People flock in this mall in Manila 2 days before the deadline of the voter registration. With the overwhelming number of people arriving, Comelec Manila decided to accommodate those who arrived only until 8 a.m. Those who did not make it to the cutoff were advised to return the following day.
Bigyan nila dapat ng mahabang oras na yung tao. Kahit hindi na 200, bigyan nila ng lahat para matapos kasi interesado mga tao lahat tumuto.
Yung mga inabutan namin ng cut-off, ang ginagawa po namin sa kanila, kukunin namin yung pangalan nila, i-interviewin na rin ng kaunti, tapos pag nakuha na po namin yung pangalan, ipapalista namin para bukas may appointment sila.
It's a totally different scenario inside the mall. People enjoy the comfort of their seats in an air-conditioned area like the movie theater. Police and mall guards ensure that basic health protocols are followed.
Bagamat gusto namin irehistro lahat, pero hindi na rin po kaya ng mga katawan, ng mga taga-field office. Pamula po nung naglunsad kami ng mall registration, halos 12 oras na po nagtatrabaho yung mga empleyado sa field.
With the public demand to extend the voter registration, election watchdog NAMFREL joins the clamor for Comelec to extend the registration for another 4 weeks.
I think this is sufficient already to handle the deluge of applicants to the various satellite voting centers and Comelec offices.
NAMFREL says there are around 74 million Filipinos who are 18 years old and above come elections 2022, but only around 62 million are registered voters so far. George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
The Liberal Party unveils its initial senatorial slate for 2022 with familiar names seeking re-election. In a statement, the LP said it nominated incumbent Senators Francis Pangilinan and Laila de Lima and former Senator Bam Aquino during its virtual National Executive Council meeting. The party also passed a resolution endorsing Senator Risa Ontiveros from Akbayan and human rights lawyer Chel Diokno as guest candidates. Pangilinan, de Lima, and Ontiveros earlier announced their bids for re-election. Diokno will give it another run after losing in 2019, while Aquino has yet to announce his plans. The party passed a resolution granting Vice President Leni Robredo full authority to initiate talks and create a united national slate of candidates for President, Vice President, and Senators. Robredo earlier called for a united opposition to challenge administration bets next year. A legend in literature passed away this morning. Bienvenido Lumbera, a Palanca awardee and National Artist for Literature, died at 9:14 a.m. today of stroke complications. He was 89 years old. Tributes for the late poet and professor all over social media, from former students to fellow writers like Lualhati Bautista and Noel Ferrer. Ferrer says novena masses and a memorial will be held every 8 p.m. or 8 in the evening from today until October 6. Further details will be announced soon. Coming up on Newsnight, it seems Vice President Lenny Robredo holds the key to rock band's reunion, and Korean boy group BTS will hit the concert stage in the U.S., its first in-person show since 2019. More details when we return.
Vaccines for kids could be coming very, very soon.
I think we are going to submit this data pretty soon. It's a question of days, not weeks.
Last year, when Pfizer submitted the data for adults applied for authorization, the green light from the FDA came just 3 weeks later.
If they approve it, we will be ready with our manufacturing to provide this new formulation of the vaccine, because the vaccine that the kids will receive, which is 5 to 11, it is a different formulation. It is almost it's 1/3 of the dose that we are giving to the rest of the population.
Today is a big vaccine mandate deadline day in the Northeast. In Connecticut, school bus drivers must now be vaccinated or take weekly tests. Reportedly, some won't do either.
You're in a tight congregate setting, a bus, surrounded by kids who aren't vaccinated.
In New York State, deadline day for medical workers. Thousands still haven't gotten a shot. A staff shortage looms. In New York City, today was supposed to be deadline day for school employees, but a court issued a temporary injunction. There's now a hearing set for Wednesday. Meantime, around 38% of the NYPD remain unvaccinated.
Right now we have 8 members of the NYPD in the hospital, all 8 unvaccinated.
Is there a connection between vaccination and hospitalization rates? Well, take West Virginia. Lowest vaccination rate in the nation right now, and the highest hospitalization rate.
We are going through the peak, and it looks like we're starting to turn down.
The Delta-driven surge is still rolling around the country, but
I think by Thanksgiving, it's probably going to have run its course across the whole country. Prevalence should decline on the back end of this Delta wave, and hopefully we get back to more of a semblance of normalcy, especially when vaccines hopefully will be available for children as well, and people will feel more comforted by the fact that they can protect their kids also.
With death on a Dutch railroad is being shared as a warning to others. Here's a warning for viewers. The woman was unharmed, but the video is no less shocking. A surveillance camera captured the woman wandering across the tracks in the Netherlands, seemingly ignoring lowered arms and flashing lights. When she makes her way back across, a speeding train barely misses her. The video was posted to Facebook by railroad company ProRail with a warning saying simply, "Don't do this." Speaking of Fast and Furious, fans of 2015's Mad Max Fury Road have a chance to get their hands on some pieces of Hollywood hot rod history from down under. Australian auction house Lloyd's is selling off the dystopian vehicles used in director George Miller's masterpiece of modern motor movie mayhem. The lot, called Expressions of Madness, features 13 vehicles from the flick, including the heavily armored War Rig truck. Critics have hailed Fury Road as an instant action classic. It grossed more than $375 million and was nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. And finally, fast but not necessarily furious is how one could describe this Pup's world record-breaking sprint around the bases at Dodger Stadium in LA. Macho's Mad Diamond Dash, clocked at 21.06 seconds, officially made the Russell Terrier the fastest ever to run the bases at a Major League stadium. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
You're watching Newsnight. I'm Pio Ontiveros. San Miguel Corporation reiterates its commitment to provide sustainable and efficient public transport infrastructure amid claims that the Pasig River Expressway project will destroy the river's ecosystem. SMC President and CEO Ramon Ang says the company is holding consultations with various stakeholders and addressing all valid concerns. Ang refutes assumptions that Parex will do more harm than good for the Pasig River, citing the conglomerate's massive efforts to clean up the river system by allotting 2 billion pesos to remove 3 million metric tons of waste. He also rejects claims that Parex will worsen pollution and explains the project's well-designed infrastructure will decongest cities, make trips faster and more economical, and help reduce air pollution caused by hours of traffic jams. He also clarifies SMC only had initial talks with master planner June Palafox's group and that no formal engagement has been reached yet. Now, for Eraserhead fans who are waiting for that long-anticipated reunion, you don't have to worry because there ain't no need to hurry. That is, unless you are Vice President Leni Robredo. Replying to a question on Twitter about the group coming back together, the OPM band's lead vocalist, Eli Buendia, said that it is possible if Robredo runs in the 2022 polls. Responding to a post about Buendia's tweet, Robredo shot an ambiguous reply of 3 runner emojis. Buendia later tweeted a disclaimer that his political opinions do not reflect that of other Eraserheads members. Filing for certificates of candidacy is set on for October 1 to 8. As of today, the Vice President has yet to announce plans to run in next year's elections. In entertainment, shortly after Inigo Pascual's casting in Fox's next musical drama, another Filipino will be part of the ensemble of an American series. Broadway star Lea Salonga is joining Pretty Little Liars, the original Sin, the remake of a 2010 hit TV program. She announced the news on her Instagram page, sharing that she will be playing one of the mothers on the show. Salonga is set to star as Elodie in the suspenseful reboot series, which will stream on HBO Max. And before we go, 7 K-pop icons are coming back on stage for their first online concert in over 2 years. BTS will perform at an in-person event in Los Angeles, California on November 27 and 28 and on December 1 and 2. But fans who can't make it to the face-to-face gig still have a chance to hear some of the group's newest hit singles live. The Permission to Dance on Stage online show will stream on October 24, over a month earlier than the physical production. It is 88 more days before Christmas, and that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 for News.ph. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXPO, presents sa uso sa dalan sa inyong radyo. RPM DXPO, ang radyo ronda dini sa Retalan sa Cagayan de Oro. Sigahan ng nagalaon sa katawan ang napaservisyo sa kanan. Ang RPM DXPO radyo ronda sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Experts say more than 65% of people around the world are lactose intolerant. This means they're unable to digest the sugar in milk and other dairy products, which is known as lactose. Now, as a result, individuals with this condition experience cramps, bloating, nausea, and even diarrhea, which are mostly harmless, but they can be very uncomfortable and inconvenient. On the program today, we'll find out how lactose intolerance can be managed. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. There are some people who have digestive problems after drinking milk, eating ice cream or dishes with cheese, butter, or even heavy cream. That's because their small intestine or their gut is unable to produce a specific enzyme whose job is to digest the sugar in these dairy products, making them lactose intolerant. Let's welcome our guest for today. With us is Dr. Suzette Co-Herman, who is a gastroenterologist from the Makati Medical Center. Also with us is Ma'am Juvie Martillo C., who is the Chief of Clinical Nutrition and Dietetics at the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Our topic for today, lactose intolerance. I'm sure marami sa ating mga Pilipino ang nagtataka kung bakit hindi masyado maganda ang reaction nila when it comes to milk, mga gatas, or milk products for that matter. I'll start the discussion first with Dr. Suzy. Pag-usapan natin, what are the warning signs of this condition? Anong pwedeng maramdaman ng ating mga viewers if they are lactose intolerant?
Usually, they develop mga gastrointestinal symptoms like they can have abdominal pain, usually crampy, parang kinakabagan. Some patients can develop nausea, vomiting, or frequent burping or flatulence. And these usually are noted after ingestion of milk or milk products.
But Dr. Suzy, how quickly does one experience these symptoms after consuming dairy products? Pwede ba itong ma-misinterpret as food poisoning?
Patients who have lactose intolerance can develop the symptoms around 30 minutes until around 2 hours after eating the dairy products. And sometimes the severity of the symptoms can also depend on the amount of lactose that they ingest or that they drink. So if very minimal lang yung amount that they were able to drink or ingest in their diet, then the symptoms could be very mild, like maybe only bloatedness. However, if they ingest a lot more food that contains more lactose products, then the symptoms can be more severe.
Pagdating sa mga tao na prone to lactose intolerance, meron bang group of people na mas mataas ang likelihood na lactose intolerant sila?
Literature would say it's common depending also on the race. So tayo, Asians, are actually more common to develop lactose intolerance.
Ma'am Juvie, can people actually develop lactose intolerant over time? Kumbaga, habang tumatanda sila, doon lang nila nararamdaman ang simptomas ng lactose intolerance.
Meron kasi tayong enzymes na tinatawag na nagbe-breakdown ng milk sugar. So kasi yung katawan natin, kailangan lang ma-absorb ang glucose. So kailangan i-break yun na wala tayong minsan kulang tayo sa enzymes na yon or lactase para sa milk sugar. So habang tumatanda, nababawasan tayo ng lactase. So nagkakaroon na rin tayo ng lactose intolerance. So meron din namang related sa disease, yun yung tinatawag nating yung celiac disease or related sa mga intestinal diseases na nagli-lead na rin sa lactose intolerance, yung mga complications or mga signs and symptoms. And meron din sa mga kids or infants na it would be congenital and developmental. So yun yung may talagang total absence ng lactase. So kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng mga lactose intolerances depende sa mga reasons or root cause.
Ngayon, Dr. Suzy, is it possible to actually sensitize your gut or pwede bang ma-outgrow itong lactose intolerance?
According to some studies, yes, you can also do sensitization, like you can try to ingest small doses of lactose in your body, and usually some patients are able to tolerate small doses of lactose and they are able to tolerate it with minimal or no symptoms.
Dr. Suzy, explain natin itong process na to, no? What happens but exactly to the body kapag merong isang taong kumain ng let's say ice cream for example or uminom ng gatas? Ano ba yung nangyayari sa katawan?
It just means na kulang sila nung lactase na enzyme. And the lactase is usually found in our duodenum or small intestine. So without any lactase, the lactose which is found in the milk or dairy products is not digested. Yung lactose is fermented or metabolized by our intestinal bacteria. And the intestinal bacteria, when it ferments the lactose in the colon, this produces yung mga gas dun sa ating bituka. That's why we develop cramping, abdominal pain, and also yung unabsorbed sugar from the lactose is also causing increased flow of water into the intestine. That's why some patients can also have diarrhea.
Ma'am Julie, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, no? How there could be a number of reasons kung bakit ang katawan natin isn't producing enough lactase. Pag-usapan ulit natin yon para maliwanagan yung ating mga viewers with this.
Related po talaga, may mga by genetics po yan sa family, kung talaga pong inherited po yung condition ng lactose intolerance. Meron din po yun as mentioned na sa infant pa lang, because of during pregnancy, nagkakaroon tayo ng late na production ng lactase or enzymes. Meron naman, as we grow old, meron naman tayong normal level ng lactase to have this role na mag-breakdown ng lactose natin na kinakain natin sa mga milk and dairy products. Pero because of our age, talagang nagde-decline ang production ng enzymes.
While your lactase production can decrease over time, it's possible to be born actually with little to no lactase at all. Now, this is a rare type that's passed on from generation to generation called congenital or developmental lactose intolerant. Dr. Susie, is this common in the Philippines? What does a patient who does not have lactase at all, what type of symptoms will they have?
This is what you call yung congenital lactase deficiency. Actually, this is a very rare condition. So, and it's characterized by an absence, meaning wala talaga silang lactase activity in the small intestine. So, they don't produce lactase at birth. So, these are most common sa mga babies, syempre, because it's congenital. Even as early as infants, they already present with lactose intolerance. And sometimes these patients develop failure to thrive because of the deficiency. No? Hindi nila matolerate yung mga milk from their mommies.
If you notice the telltale signs of lactose intolerance after drinking milk or having dairy, it might be time to schedule a doctor's visit. Now, we'll tell you what to expect and the best ways to prevent lactose intolerance when we return. So stay with us on MedTalk Health Talk. We're your partner in healthcare. This is CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Now, many adults experience bloating, cramps, diarrhea, or even vomiting after drinking milk or eating milk products. Today, we'll walk you through what you need to do about it. Let's discuss pag-diagnose ng lactose intolerance. Because the first step, as recommended, is to try cutting it from your diet. Now, if your symptoms ease after a day or two, it's more likely that you're lactose intolerant. And your doctor can confirm this diagnosis with actually a few tests. Pag-usapan natin yun, Dr. Suzette, kung ano ba ang if you have a suspicion of your patient being lactose intolerant, what are some of the definitive tests for this?
You do the hydrogen breath test. So you take it after an overnight fast. So you do it in the hospital. This is a non-invasive test. So ang gagawin is when you go to the hospital after fasting, you're given 25 grams of lactose and then you swallow it with water. And syempre, if you cannot tolerate the lactose, then I mentioned diba, yung bacteria in the colon will be able to digest the lactose in the colon and they will be producing yung mga gas. And these gases will be detected in the patient's breath when they do the hydrogen breath test.
Today, there's actually no cure available yet for lactose intolerance, but it is managed pretty easily. Your amount of food and drinks that contain lactose can actually help. Pero, Ma'am Julie, pag-usapan natin yon. Healthy ba sa diet ng isang tao na tanggalin ang lahat ng lactose or mga milk products? Is it healthy to eliminate from their diets completely?
Lactose is a part of a healthy eating lifestyle, a part of a good composition of a meal, a balanced diet. Kasi when we say lactose, this could be coming from milk and dairy products. And other nutrients could be more component of calcium, phosphorus, kasi yung lactose is a good source of protein din. So, pag sinabi nating lactose, andyan yung milk and dairy products, and it's a case-to-case basis, of course. It's so unfortunate na tanggalin talaga yung lactose sa diet natin.
Now, taking calcium and vitamin D supplements are one of some of the alternatives to this, ano? But Ma'am Juvie, play natin sa mga viewers yung difference nito. Is this a good replacement?
We still need the supplements to provide the calcium sources natin, but it's of course with a good endorsement or collaboration with the gastro, we really identify that what would be the best that we can give to the patient. Kasi we really nire-reserve namin yung as possible na pwede namin ibigay sa patient. So as identified, for example, if it's due to aging, so we can have a specific amount or allowed that we can give to this type of patients or age group. But if it's related to diseases, there would be a consideration of supplements, calcium supplements or other nutrients para lang ma-maintain yung function natin sa body or balance. Kasi if we don't give enough supplements, may lack of, we will have our nutrient deficiencies naman.
Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Suzy, on the extreme end, can someone who is lactose intolerant be the explanation for any mood changes, any fatigue that they feel in their daily lives, symptoms that may not immediately make them think that it could be due to lactose intolerance? Can it reach this point?
If you have lactose intolerance and you're not able to absorb yung mga other like calcium in the milk, then or vitamin D kulang din. So severe vitamin D deficiency can also cause yung mga mood changes, depression, mga ganyan. And yun, low calcium can also cause yung mga poor bones. So yes, so maybe if you're presenting with symptoms of that and you're having some bowel changes or bowel discomfort, especially when you eat dairy products, then maybe better seek a consultation with a doctor, especially a gastroenterologist, so that you can be worked up properly regarding yung possible of lactose intolerance.
Now, learning how to manage your lactose intolerance begins with your diet. We'll talk about what foods to avoid and the best alternatives when we return. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health, so stay with us here on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Now, lactose intolerance is a condition most adults have to live with. There's actually no way to prevent it effectively, but while those living with the condition can consume some dairy without symptoms, there are alternative ways to get your daily dose of calcium as well as vitamin D. Now, we'll take a closer look at what foods you should eat and avoid for a lactose-free diet. Talk about supplement to start this off, specifically those lactase enzyme tablets. Are these tablets effective? Should our viewers take this if they are lactose intolerant?
So there are commercially available preparations for enzyme replacement, like tablet form or a liquid form. And these patients who are lactose intolerant can try taking these supplements every time they eat food that contains lactose. However, you have to keep in mind that it's not as effective na 100% because sometimes hindi din siya porque na you took these enzymes automatically no symptoms at all. The effectivity of these supplements would also be dependent on the acidity of the stomach. Sometimes if your stomach would be too acidic, then sometimes it cannot work completely. That's why I still advise my patient, the best pa din is you try to limit the lactose products that you're taking.
Let's talk about naman yung foods to avoid kapag nalaman natin na you are indeed lactose intolerant. Ma'am Juvie, let's remind our viewers kung ano ang mga pagkain na ito. Now, what should our viewers avoid kapag lactose intolerant sila?
On the food that contains lactose. So in layman, we have just read milk and dairy products. Yan po ay nagko-contain ng lactose. So we have to avoid that gradually or it depends on the intolerances. And also we advise the other consumers or patients to read properly the food labels that they want to buy in the grocery.
Yeah.
So check on ang basic lang po sa mga packaging, nakalagay ay lactose free. So that means it doesn't have lactose.
Now, if diagnosed with lactose intolerance, you need to make an active effort to get enough calcium as well as vitamin D. Now, we mentioned that supplements are a safe way to get them, but there are many healthy foods rich in these nutrients as well. Ma'am Juvie, pag-usapan naman natin yun. Let's give our viewers some ideas kung ano ang mga pagkain na rich in vitamin D and calcium na hindi naman milk products.
Andiyan yung mga seeds. Mahilig sa mga nuts like almonds. If other patients are affordable to buy yan it's a good source of calcium, yung mga nuts. But we can also consider yung mga seafoods or yung mga fish with soft bones, mataas po yan sa calcium. At sa mga mahihilig na kumain ng gulay, yan po ay very lucky po sila. They have a good source of calcium or vitamin D, yung mga dark leafy vegetables like broccoli, mga kangkong, petchay. So that would be very affordable na kahit na lactose intolerant tayo, makakakuha tayo ng ibang sources po ng calcium.
Dr. Susie, how about advice for your viewers when it comes to not just what to do if they are lactose intolerant, but overall gut health?
It's very nice to eat, eat a well-balanced diet. Make sure to exercise also because that also, stimulates yung ating digestion. So if you're prone on sitting lang, syempre, most patients, they really feel bloated or constipated. So movement, exercise, balanced diet, and a regular checkup with your gastroenterologist.
Remember, when it comes to lactose intolerance, each individual is unique. Learn how much dairy you can eat and drink without feeling any symptoms. Try smaller servings at first, and you can gradually increase from there. Ultimately, though, you need to listen to your body and what it actually needs. With that, I'd like to thank gastroenterologist Dr. Suzette Coherman and clinical nutritionist and dietitian Ms. Juvie Martilius-C for guiding us on today's episode. Here on MedTalk Health Talk, we hope to give you the knowledge and care that you need. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. We'll see you again next time. Stay safe, everyone.